But what we are really interested is in penetrating the human experience of how these issues play out, and also thinking about how we really articulate care and belonging into issues that are very significant for many people across our continent. And we do so from a humanized and humanizing perspective. And then, really shedding light on some of the challenges and difficulties with regards to learning and inclusion, and exploring how collectively, both from policy level, but also from this very intimate level of how we behave and what we do on a day-to-day basis, how we can foster equity and inclusion for those who suffer from these issues. Just a quick reminder and an introduction to our dialogue format. So Africa Voices Dialogue has a very, very specific intent or near focus, which is to ensure that insofar as we are able, all who participate in our dialogues are seen, heard, and loved. And the dialogic space is one that's intended to really open space for voice, for connection, for care, belonging, and conversation. And so our dialogues fluctuate between these two formats, the one like we are in now, which sometimes can be a lot larger, but a central space where we have one or two discussants who bring some thinking into the space to really prompt our general engagement with the topic, to share some of their lived experiences, to portray some of the lived experiences of their context. And then we circle back into breakaway rooms where we have an opportunity for every voice to be heard. And so as we step into the dialogue, the request is for each of us to commit to bringing our wholehearted listening into the space, to bringing our own vulnerabilities, to bringing our voice, and to really sharing very openly our thoughts without worrying whether they are perfect or imperfect, but really bringing what we have seen and experienced in our own spaces, in our own lives. And where we have we don't feel like we have a huge amount to contribute to a specific topic, to really listen for what others are saying is evoking for us, so that we're accessing our own emotions and our own feelings, and we're opening ourselves through this open-heartedness, open-mindedness, and our open will to gain deeper insight and maybe to contribute towards transformative change and change in practice, even if that is at the tiniest level of our own awareness or our own practice in classrooms or school leadership or community leadership, whatever the spaces are that we are engaged in. So as I said, the request really is, again, from Umucho Art. This is Sibo's work, his representation of Africa Voices Dialogue, but to really gather together in an indaba with a spirit of Ubuntu, with the spirit of really I am because you are, listening to each other with open heart, open mind, open will. Okay, so Karima, these are, if not our guests in presence, because we are aware and we knew that many of them might face technical challenges, but our guests in terms of thinking into this dialogue. So they have made contributions into what some of the issues are that are being seen and experienced on the ground, and really sort of brought this dialogue to the fore for us. So Karima can introduce each participant. I do apologize. So I did the slides and I could not find the images for you, Letty. So when Karima introduces you, we're just going to spotlight you, and Yarita and the same. But Karima, if you might be able to do some quick introductions. Letty can introduce herself.
Yes, Robin. I would love to thank Tinatin Damoda Rikwa, who He is our great friend and colleague, a member of the AVD family, who is the founder and president of RADA Foundation for diseases and rare diseases and disabilities, trust in Zimbabwe. But I think that maybe he's just having a problem with the network. He's a maths teacher, and he's a fighter who has really a long story of struggling, fighting for education and learning of children with rare disabilities. And I hope that he will be able to join us today. There is Litwin Nyakua, who is present with us in the session. She is also an educator and an active member of RADA Foundation. And she's an activist who fights so that those children with rare disabilities can benefit from the same equal opportunities as the other children. There is a lady who is called Yerita Pirikiti. She's a businesswoman, and with her husband, they are leading actions to support families and children with disabilities, bringing them every support they can, and they also fight every day so that they can achieve this goal to make the voice of those children and families heard. And our friend also, Energy, who is also an educator and uses music to educate children and support them psychologically. I would love to invite Litwin to start sharing her experience. Litwin, while we are waiting for our main speakers, hoping that they will join us soon. Litwin, the floor is yours. Can you hear me?
Good day, team.
Litwin, can you start?
I'm facing network trouble. I don't know if I jumped in at the right place, but hey,
Yeah.
with the way network is, please allow me, even if it wasn't my time to be in.
Yeah, you can start. You can start.
Can I proceed, Karima?
Yes, you can. You can proceed. Yeah. The floor is yours.
Team, am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. My name is Letine. I'm 39 years old. I'm a teacher. I hold a bachelor's in public administration, and recently I concluded my postgrad in project management. Things were okay until 2013, when I had a drooping eyelid. My eye was just closing, and no one could tell what was wrong. That was the beginning of MG. So from October 2013 to October 2018, 5 good years, no one knew what was wrong with me. It was wrong medication. At one point, I was scheduled for a surgery, which I denied because it was inconclusive what was wrong with me. So until I was referred to a neuro, and that neuro, just by looking at me, just told me this is myasthenia gravis, and it was my first time hearing it. So what is MG? It is the weakness of the nerves. So the messages that come from the brains there's a delay in the relay, and actually the body is fighting itself. It's destroying the receptors. So sometimes I receive messages a bit late, like swallow food. That message, it can come late and I choke when I eat. So, but with medication, it becomes better. Now, this disease has caused a rift family-wise, work-wise. Why? Because it's an invisible disease. When people look at you, they think you're okay, but deep down you're dying. Also, as in our black culture, there's this likelihood of saying it's witchcraft. Whatever something is wrong with witchcraft, and to make it worse, because every test result was saying we are not seeing anything, family just concluded that it's witchcraft. So that's why even when you visited my pages or what, I'm not yet like out like the public knowing, because I'm still fighting within my family to accept that this is a scientific and medical condition. There is a disease called AG, and I need your support. So support must come from home to begin with, and it's still a battle for me. Most people, they just believe it's witchcraft. Even on events, those funerals, what, you are Makoti, you must work. Makoti cannot work now because the nerves are compromised. No one will believe that it is a problem for me. Also, during my 5-year journey, I noticed most GPs are not aware of these invisible illnesses. That's why they are giving us wrong medication. And it's unfortunate. I had one of lane. I never got to meet the lady we met via social network. She passed on. She had all the symptoms I was having, but unfortunately, she lost the battle. So, rare is real, but how many people know rare? That's the problem that we are facing with. It starts with our family, who is in denial. Everything is witchcraft. Then when I was at work now, I became more interested in kids whom I can see, this kid is not okay. So I've opened my office for them. I'm now working with social workers. Just now comes the problem. These are minors. The parents, they don't give me like approval, their consent to go ahead. Remember, we needed a drawing. I have a very good man who can draw, but the mother has denied. The mother doesn't want to share pictures, nothing needs. That child also is surviving in hiding. Why? Because of a surgery which went wrong. This child is now wearing diapers. I've tried to connect them with Tino because I know Tino went through the same thing while he was still in school. This child is facing bullying and, but I try all my best just to be there and to put other learners in place. At one point, there was an accident at school. We ran out of pampers. I called the parent. The mother was furious, saying, how could he allow that to happen? I totally lost it because I told her, you must be grateful. This child from grade 4 has been dressing himself up. How many grade 4s can do that? That child is grade 8 now. But the mother also has a problem. Attitude, I don't know. Maybe our caregivers, sometimes we are too much to handle to them. I don't know. But we didn't choose this life. We didn't choose the way we are. It is a message that the public needs to know. No one chooses disability. Sometimes you get it from birth. Sometimes it comes later in life. Like for me, it came in my early 30s. But it is real. We need to deal with it with an open mind. Our schools, there's no equity there. There's no inclusion whatsoever. I, as an educator,
Team. It sounds like that would be a very, very good contact. Clara.
All right, thank you, Robin, and thank you to the speakers. I think this is very powerful and insightful learning experience. From my background from Ghana, I grew up in a household where parents have a child. This is physical disability. And right from that age, around late 88 to the 90s, I witnessed him taking the child from our small community to the larger city to receive services from the child. And part of it was that those organizations that was running the charity, the Catholic churches, so it was not more of government support, but individual group or the churches who were providing support for the children with disability. And aside that, in Ghana, I know that there still exists the segregation system of education for people with disability. And because it's not very common within the community, the children have to travel to a different location to receive their education on disability, especially those with deaf and dumb and those with special need, physical and other stuff. So they have to travel from one location to another to receive education on disability. Meanwhile, in our policy, in our documents, there's still campaign for inclusion in early childhood and school system. However, our school system is not in support of inclusion of people with disability. One, our building system are not in good shape to receive them. Two, teachers are not well prepared adequately to support people with disability. Aside that, our facility systems in school, I remember in my previous school, there was one student who was using wheelchair, and the class she was supposed to be in was top floor. So the student had to carry her from the grounds to the top floor to receive services or receive education, which goes to confirm that our educational system is not well developed to accept children with disability to be in the inclusion setting. And teachers are not well prepared. Our educational system does not provide enough support for educators to handle those children. Aside having those with physical disability, we have a lot of disability in the classroom teachers are not aware. And because of our practices, we tend to punish children for their disability. Some children have learning disability a lot of times, and we are not aware as educators to help them to provide support. Connecting that to where I am now, I am teaching undergraduate students who are receiving education on learning disability early intervention. And going into their classroom in the US, they have support for children with disability. There's something called early intervention. So the government and the states, after going through assessment for disability, the children will receive a training from special ed trained teacher, connecting with the family. Sometimes they visit their homes and they have individualized education plan for the child. So after receiving education within the mainstream education, the child also receives support, special ed support from a specialist. And those with behavioral disability, they have specialists coming to the classroom to help educators to handle those children. So this is something I want to share, connecting from my background in Ghana and what is happening here and now even in US, the state I am now, there's a policy where early childhood education is now mandated to include special ed education. So before you go out as an early child educator, you are well prepared to know, identify, refer children to receive early intervention. And from our background and our child development study, we know that the best way to support children with disability is through early identification. And early identification and early support kind of help mitigate the severity of the disability. So this is a major issue, a major topic. I think the dialogue is doing a good job. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you so much, Clara, for this wonderful.
I just wanted to come in there.
Sure, go ahead.
All right, I just wanted to add on. Yes. You know, when you are doing the teaching qualification, there's a module which they call inclusion in education. It's not speaking to the nitty-gritties of just any child. So what my other colleague has said, he has sparked an
We're sorry, you will
and
probably
teacher paid it. That boy of mine, when he spoiled himself, no,
that's when we tend to lose you from time to time.
wanted to help to clean. The principal herself said, we are not trained to do this. You from the beginning, this child must be in a special school. Solving that challenge of the police educators, they are already in education. So I don't know how many. Can you hear me now?
Not very well, unfortunately, but we kind of gleaned some information. Could you just quickly summarize what you said in the last 2 or 3 minutes, please?
In the
Let's
chat, maybe if Letty, I
in
think
the
that
chat,
might be a
yes.
good idea to just pop it in the chat for us so that we get it properly, because the sound is not great. So maybe while you do that, Aziz.
I'm sure Lithuanian has shared some very, very insightful ideas with us. But hopefully we can read about these in the chat. So because we need to record them as well. And there are plenty of people who are getting in touch with me online now, and they are just if I can share the recording with them later, because it's a very, very interesting topic. I myself has done some research on this lately, so I've published a paper. It's a study that I conducted in Florida Atlantic University, trying to see what is done at the level of the United States in terms of accessibility, and at the same time share some stories from Morocco. There are stories that are shared in the published paper, so I'll share it with you very, very quickly. It's around equity, and I think that's the most important thing to say, that equity is not about rhetoric. It's not a discourse. Equity is not a discourse, it's an action, but unfortunately, in most countries, it's still a discourse, it's not an action. Atif, Dr. Atif, happy to see you here. And
yeah, thank you, Abdulaziz. Well, I'm really interested in that topic, because actually, I live in a country, a big country, more than 106 million people. And, a substantial percent of people are people with determination. I'm sorry, because actually in Egypt we don't like it just only to see people with disabilities. Yeah, we always say people with determination. And this is the first thing is that the title, because actually those people is not disabled, but they can do a lot. And this is encouraging for them, just only not to say disabled people, but to say, people with determination. Because actually we talk about Africa, yeah, and I think, the many challenges in Africa is just based on, socioeconomic factors. Because actually, if we look to the socioeconomic factors in Africa, we will see, variations in many countries. Let me say the total of the African countries, they suffer from the socioeconomic diseases. I like to say diseases, yeah. So it's very important just to say that the people with discrimination has the right. This is a human right. So this is number one. because actually even in all constitutions, we say that we are equal. So, that our education systems, we have two philosophies. One philosophy is just only to found, special needs schools. And the other philosophy said, no, this is not, the approach we can deal with all the special needs students. The best or the better approach is to include them. That is what you call inclusion, them with the normal people in our classrooms. But the challenges here is how we can develop inclusive classrooms. Because actually, the challenges here is, curriculum, inadequate, teachers, a lack of inclusive teaching methods, a lot of challenges happen. In Egypt, for example, because actually we live in Cairo, so, it's a, high dense populations city. So, the schools, the buildings, the infrastructure, the access to the schools is one of the problems. So, the responsibilities for, the people with discrimination is not for the education system, but it's a comprehensive approach. Ministry of Health, faith organization, because actually I'm talking about the faith organization because actually we need, to encourage volunteers to work in that field. Because actually, the families in my country is actually they taking in charge of everything from A to Z for the person who is unable to do that. So it seems for me, all these, policymakers, the budget, everything of that, we have to look at, the comprehensive approach, comprehensive policies, not an education system, but in others, sides here. Thank you. Yeah.
Robin.
Fantastic. Thank you, Aziz. So we're going to just go into 3 breakaway rooms, conversations in your rooms. And it's interesting, so just to pick up on what you were saying, Gusheb, that so much of it's if one can
Yes.
look at disability through the lens of what does difficulty sometimes offer, what would change? Just hearing how integration of as part of myself, where
Yes.
can I go to with this issue? It's not making me less, it's part of who I am.
Mhm.
I can leverage it somehow, but
To line up difficulties, like the difficulties with I was experiencing when I was just a boy in school and now, and what the difference. Experience the difficulties posed by blindness, like it was hard for me to find someone to to help me every time, to go out, to walk around. I had the reading difficulties with some, because we didn't have accessible books to read. We didn't have a lot of things to do. Now this is no longer a big problem because the advent of assistive technology and all the solutions brought, and also among the difficulties, social integration, because it was hard to break down stereotypes, because you couldn't find all the time friends that gonna respect you as anyone else. To get friends who will welcome you to an excursion, to a picnic, to travel with them. Now maybe things are a little bit changing for better. Now with the as I notice myself with the new generation of people. I say that these difficulties are like being resolved, but we need a lot of effort to enhance integration of disabled people within society, and especially in third world states.
Thank you, Bushaib. Actually, I would like to say something very, very, very quickly. So we are, as you know, we don't own this dialogue actually, and it's people like Bushaib and the people who have already been through the experiences who own this dialogue. So we apologize on their behalf if we're probably awkward. I guess I have to say that sometimes we may be awkward having a dialogue around that issue, and just apologize for that. But at the same time, I think that it's based on the research that I have done. I have learned a lot, by the way. I still need to learn a lot. But just to clarify one thing, when we talk about disability, research, of course, differentiates between visible and invisible disabilities, and that might also change the way we see disability and react to disability. So there are people who have, and I think that Litwin has already mentioned something around that. So there are people who are we can see that they are disabled, and if in collective cultures, we most of the time we tend to help these people and to provide them with help. But there are people who have disabilities that are not visible, and sometimes these people are denied help, or we even have stereotypes around those disabilities. And Litwin talked about witchcraft, and it's almost still existent in many countries around the world, not just in Africa. Robin?
Thank you. Thanks so much, Aziz. Now, so just maybe a couple of reflections. Clara, Nell, Penina, Michael, would you like to reflect anything back from your room? And then maybe the other room?
Robin, can I come in?
Yes, Litwin.
In our room, I think Nell's take on culture. I haven't viewed culture in that way. She was talking about the South African culture here of supporting one another, forming groups. We are using social media. Red is a very good group. I joined it on Facebook. Then I also told my roommates about myasthenia gravis, Gauteng. So that is where we teach each other the medication that we are taking, the side effects. Sometimes you woke up with a swollen face, you are scared. Just by typing, they will tell you, it's the prednisone you are taking, relax. Or if it's like this, go to emergency room. So culture, we have that culture here in South Africa of helping each other, and we make the groups open to caregivers also, where we educate them so that they can be able to help the patient in a better way, to understand us, our needs, especially us with invisible disabilities. I don't know. It's a struggle. You must convince people first that you are sick before they can take action. They can help you. Like right now, in the middle of a power blackout since Tuesday, I had to do laundry manually. My hands are swollen today. I stopped doing that long back, but I was forced. Yes, kids were helping, but it's those little things, little struggles that we face every day. And it's amazing if you have a group, you belong somewhere, you have people who understand you. So culture also, we are having a culture of supporting one another here in South Africa through social networks. Thanks, Robin.
Thank you so
And
much, Clara. Sorry.
and another thing we also discuss has to do with inclusion. and how we understand inclusion in various contexts and how we welcome people to be part of the community and feel belonging. So inclusion was a major part of it because in our context, in Africa, inclusion is a major thing depending on the language you speak, whether in the school system, whether at the hospital, or whether at work. How do we welcome people and how do we perceive them? So providing opportunity for everybody to be filled and be welcome and feel belonging is also a great way to support inclusion. And I also share in our group that in our context, you often see that when it comes to special education and children with disability, most often than not, women are the core end of taking care of their children. And because most of the children need so much support and so much care, the women cannot move to work and provide support for their children. And the family end up in abject poverty and mostly neglected. And this is something that we need to bring to attention to kind of provide support around that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Clara. Atef, and everybody, I'm not sure who was in which room anymore. Actually, I can check. But Karima, I think, let's see, Karima, Atef, Silvana, you were in a room together. Anything that you would like to share?
I think Karima, she was a moderator.
But Ahmed, you made some really good points.
Sorry.
You made some really good points about your three main points. Do you want to talk about, just summarize those? Okay, I'll say what I thought, especially from Ahmed, that teaching is what makes a difference. And so we need to have teacher training so that teachers have knowledge of different types of learning abilities so that they can program effectively. Because it really is unfair to expect a teacher to have a classroom of students and a curriculum that they have to have so that at the end the exams are written, especially when you're in a country where the exams are important. So it's a whole different mindset, and that really does start at the teacher education program. And then another good point that Hamed had made was that there are some things even in structures of buildings that need to change that are essential for people with disabilities, and you need to look at making those modifications. And a lot of times when those are done, it's a saying that we have here in Canada is that what is essential for some is good for all. So looking at it, at making sure that people have what it is that they need in order so that they can participate fully in society.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Silvana, and thank you to everybody in that room. And I love that you brought that statement up because I couldn't remember who it was that was saying that when you build and you cater for those who have the least access or who have the most challenges with access, it actually serves everybody. And it's so true that, you know, when you see a ramp and you see how many able-bodied people walk up the ramp as opposed to the steps, because actually they don't have enough of a disability for a wheelchair, but it's really difficult for them to move upstairs. You really start to cater when you create and you hold and you build with an awareness of what people might need, then even those whose needs you can't see, you cater for as well. It's just a really good thing to bear in mind. Karima.
Thank you, everyone, for your interesting insights, and Shaibi, you are really inspiring because what is important is not the talk, as you said, but the action and disability is not for me. It's not a disability. They just have some difficulties to deal with life according to the type of this challenge. It's just challenging. When they find support, and when the support starts as earlier as possible, the results are really amazing. And this doesn't happen like this. It happens with the support love of the family, and then the understanding and of the educators and schools. And also, despite the policies that are made for inclusion and education of children and youth with in situation of disability, the implementation is hard, really hard, because what is lacking from my point of view as an educator or a witness of experiences of families and children with disability, it is the fact that parents themselves are not supported. At the beginning, they try their best to support their child and facilitate things for them. And then they feel tired, especially the ones who do not have the means to take them, for example, to medical care, to psychological support. For example, I'm talking about children who have learning disorders, autistic children. They are really amazing. And personally, I had an experience with the autistic children. They have an amazing memory. They can learn, but this requires a lot of efforts by the families and educators. And unfortunately, there isn't an education and training for parents to face those challenges, because alone they cannot face. And as I mentioned earlier, most of the time the mothers are the ones who take all the responsibility. And in our sad heritage, the mothers are always accused of the child's disability. So my question is, how can policies with practices from educators contribute together in order to start the support from the roots, from parents, then school? Because if this doesn't happen with all those people and groups in charge of childhood and healthcare and education, we should stop talking about inclusion and improving life, learning, autonomy of those children. So what do you think? Thank you.
Thank you, Karima.
Can I
Farah,
share? Yeah, I'm sorry. I want to share my experiences here in the US and what they do with the parents. Basically, they have the states. I'm in Tennessee, so they have a unit, a department in charge of special education, and they have early childhood, early interventionists. So what the interventions do is they go to the parent's home, and the parents will identify the need and the support they want the child to grow. So for instance, every family is different. So some parents may decide that we want our child to be socially included, learn pre-social skills to be included in a system. So the parent will identify the need and specific skills they want the child to gain. So the early interventionists will work with the parents, provide the parents the skills and the support they need to communicate or help the child to develop those skills. Because the thinking was that the parents spend most of their time with the children, and they are the best teachers to help the child to grow and be more integrated into society. So when you empower the parents, they are in a better position to support the child. So the school support will be an addition to what the parents are doing. And more so, there's a collaboration, direct collaboration between the home and the school to know where the child is and where they can extend the learning of the child. So what you are saying is very true. The most important part of the support and the growth starts with the parents, because they are the best teachers for the children. And in Ghana, I know a parent with autism. And through her advocacy, she has developed a lot of support on social media. And what she does is that the children with autism, they come to receive support in a health center with the help of their family members. So they are there to learn the skills they can help the child to be integrated at home, because they need a lot of support. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. So before we continue onward a little, just want to greet a couple of those who've joined us since we went into breakaway rooms. So Fiston, it's so great to see you all the way from Montreal, well, from Montreal and Canada. It's lovely, lovely to see you. We have missed you. And Umucho Art, the whole crowd of you, it's really good. Sibo and everybody who's there. I can't see everybody in detail. It's wonderful to see you too. Al Hassan, welcome. And I think that is mostly who joined us while we were out on other calls. I think Richard, you also joined us. You also joined us in the middle of our breakaway groups. So welcome to each of you. So Karima, do you want to lead us into the next segment of our conversation? And I was wondering if we might want to invite, since some of our guest speakers were not able to join for connectivity reasons, if we might want to ask Nell if she could talk a little bit, because the work that she does on the continent, or that her organization does, is wonderful. And then I'm not sure who else you would like to ask to contribute. Possibly, I'm not sure if Sibo is able to with his signal, but so Karima, over to you. And before we, just to note that Atif has his hand up.
We may give Atif a few seconds to express himself before we jump up to Karima. And at the same time, very quickly, there is one thing we haven't talked about, but it's okay. It's about gender. What has emerged very quickly is that women are the ones who suffer most from the challenges, but at the same time, women are the ones who champion care at homes, as mothers and as caretakers, when it comes to helping those people navigate the challenges. Atif, please.
Yeah, just few seconds. Yeah, let me say that equality is very hard to achieve. Revolutions. Even revolutions happened because to be equal. For equality. Those people deserve a lot of attention, not in our countries, but on our earth. It's very important to that. So my recommendation is that just only we need to support and encourage, what we call it academic research regarding, innovation in special education. Because actually, to achieve equality, for those people, we need innovation, we need creativity, we need people to think, how to support, the people. So let us just only, when we, Robin draft, the report or something like that, funders, academic institutions, research institutions, fund, this kind of research in special education and how we can overcome the challenge and difficulties we always face in inclusion of those people. Thank you.
Thank you. Fistar, quickly, and then Karima.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. And hi, everyone. It's good to be here. What Atif just shared and what Brother Aziz shared in the group, in the chat, it made me think of an earlier conversation we already had. I actually had an exam, and it was like a written exam, what to write about equality and fairness. And it made me think of violence. I listened to this guy from, I think, Moscow or Russia. I think he's a philosopher. He was talking about violence, about the system into place today, the educational system. And he talked about violence, not as a bad thing. He said we need violence if we want to enact change. We need violence. We need to be violent. We need to be fierce if we want to alter today's educational system. Today's education system, it's a system where if we look at it, we have the so-called alternative, and there's so many types of educations, and all these are created around the narrative to say, oh, today's education is not sufficient and we need to complement it. So this philosopher was saying, we need to be very violent, so violent that we are able to apprehend today's education and alter it with our own creativity. So when I was thinking about the equality, we may not be able to equalize everything and help these people, the so-called disabled people or disability, to include disability. But if we think of fairness, how about fairness? Fairness is, we look at you saying you deserve 2 and I deserve 3, or he deserves 4, because you can walk, he can't walk. Right? We need to replenish that gap. We need to be so violent to enact fairness, to include fairness into education. So that was my take, and it made me think of this quote. I can't remember who said. He said, "If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend the rest of its life thinking it's stupid." And I think this is the time we look at it in this one specific sphere to say maybe we need to change the narrative around disability. Like, Brother Aziz said, it's a social construct. How about, I thought of different ability, rather than disability. I don't think they're disabled. I think it's a different ability. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Karima.
Thank you, Robin, and thank you, Aziz, for bringing the gender, because this is what I was going to talk about, and I wanted it to be left in the end. On behalf of the speakers who couldn't join us, I would love to share their stories around me. So for Tintin, what he has been facing as challenges during his childhood, and especially education, and if he could survive it, if he could become an educator and a leader for supporting children with rare disabilities, it's thanks to his mother. So his mother is an educator, and she has been supporting him all the time. And he said that without her support, he couldn't become what he became today. His father also supported him, but his mother was the main supporter. And for Yerita, she as a mother, she's got a child who has audible disability, and feeding her child, and with her husband, they support the child and do everything to facilitate life for them. Therefore, they feel the other parent, and they started their journey by bringing support, bringing everything that they can to families and children who are in such situation, to the extent that they walk for 20 miles to raise awareness about how to deal with the child. For example, how to train the parents to look for their children. And now they are on the way of founding an organization to make their work more concrete and more effective. And I've got a lot of stories from mothers whose children were diagnosed with autism, for example, and with the other with the mental neurodevelopmental disorder, and they've been training, learning, going to organizations. They even changed their jobs just to be with their children. And at the level also of gender representation and the fight, not only at the level of the mother's key role in their children's life, but in my research for my master, I found out, unfortunately, that girls who are in disability situation, especially mental and psychological, are the big targets of sexual abuse. And as long as they are fertile, they make so many children without fathers, because anyone can use them. And their children indeed are abandoned because the mother doesn't know. She doesn't know what she's doing because she's just exploited. And they are taken to social care institutes. And this is so sad. Unfortunately, this happens every day. And because their families cannot support them all the time, they cannot look after them because they are tired of doing this. Therefore, they abandon them. They do not follow up with them. Therefore, they are victims of abuse. This is so sad. So the mothers bear I won't say the burden, but these challenges. And as elders with disabilities, especially mental, are really victims of such abuse. So I would love to raise these voices, and I hope that together and with our try to do something about it, like organize campaigns for awareness and lead research, try to develop practices to at least reduce those negative effects of such situations of those children. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Actually, I want to very quickly share a story from the story that I have done research on. I have met a student at university who was
the difference we can make change, and I hope that this will be just an introduction to a concrete work together, bringing policy, research, practice, support, sympathy, love to make difference for those children and young people. And I hope that we will continue the connection and the conversation. And I would love to render homage to everyone, starting from the families, especially mothers, everyone who cares, who brings support whatsoever, psychological, materialistic, to make a difference for those children. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. I love you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. So we'll close formally and we'll play ourselves out with a little bit of music. And if anybody wants to stay on afterwards for a short chat, we'll hold the space open for another few minutes. But for now, to say thank you. And let me share sound. There we go. Just to play us out with a little bit of music for us. Please give me a thumbs up if you can hear. There we go. me. Thank you.
Ona makambo e, ona makambo e, ona makambo e, ngai na makambo e, munu para kile bachuli ba lutua, lutua, lutua munu wekluwe, lutua munu wekluwe. Oh, na makambo e, yeah. Ngai na makambo e, yeah. Oh, na makambo e, yeah. Ngai na makambo e, unu para kileba juliba.